Turning your hobby into a job sounds like a dream, right? Get paid to do what you love. Love what you do and never work a day in your life. Sound familiar? But before you quit your day job and start mass producing macrame plant hangers, let's talk about what really happens when passion meets paycheck. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. Today, we're diving into a topic that a lot of makers, crafters, and creators daydream about. Can I really turn my handmade hobby into a living? Before we jump in, just to give you a little context, I not only host this YouTube channel where I monetize my content here using YouTube's monetization features, I also have a Patreon where I offer a lot of additional content to help fund and fuel the work that goes into providing free weekly content here on YouTube. But on top of that, I am also the owner and the dyer and the sole operator of Fiber for the People yarn. And this is a hand-dyed yarn business I have been operating since 2017. I've been on this handmade business journey now for 8 years. Okay, so I'm in my little, it's the corner of our garage that's going to be used for dyeing and things like that. I'm excited because today I am going to try my hand at dyeing up one of those skeins that I showed you from yesterday. I think I'm not mixing my own colors. I'm actually going to take some of the pre-made colors that they have and try to do kind of like maybe like a speckled yarn, or maybe just kind of a multicolor thing going on. So the first one I'm going to try. So what is it that calls creators to the world of handmade business? What strikes that entrepreneurial spirit that makes them want to turn what they do as a hobby into what they do for a living? Well, there's a few things. In fact, there are 3 big words I hear so often when people provide rationale for turning their handmade hobby, or whatever hobby it is, into a business. And that is freedom, creativity, and flexibility. And it's usually followed up by the sentiment, well, if I love it so much, surely other people are going to as well. Reality check, it turns out that what you love doing in a quiet afternoon is an entirely different beast when you're staring down 500 orders at midnight. It kind of reminds me of Stanley Tucci's character Nigel from Devil Wears Prada when he's talking to Andy about what's going on in her world and how she's feeling very overwhelmed about her life literally hanging by a thread.
My personal life is hanging by a thread, that's all.
And he says this.
That's what happens when you start doing well at work, darling. Let me know when your whole life goes up in smoke. And this is time for a promotion.
And so you have to be really careful about your expectation of success. But let me be clear, the dream is real. You can absolutely build something beautiful and fulfilling, and my work is a testament to that. But remember, the fantasy has to survive the logistics. Write down 3 reasons that you want to turn your hobby into a business. And then ask yourself, would I still enjoy this if I had to do it all day, every day, even if I don't feel like it? It's absolutely crucial, if you're going to turn a hobby into a business, that the hobby you're planning on turning into a business is scalable. Look for product or service scalability. You might be able to produce one, but can you produce many? And when I say many, can you produce enough that provides you with the income you're looking for? And when it comes to your desired income, that's something we're going to be talking about in just a minute, so hold tight. Some really good candidates here there are digital goods, teaching online classes, or batch-made products. Think a yarn dyer like myself or many others out there that dye yarn on a small batch scale. That scale is going to ultimately determine a lot of other very important aspects of your business that you probably haven't initially thought a lot about, and we're going to get to those in a second as well. And avoid ultra time heavy and low margin crafts. If something takes you 15 hours to make and Etsy is coyly suggesting that you sell it for $39.95, that's not a business model, that's a slow motion bankruptcy. Designing for scalability doesn't make your work less special. It makes your business more resilient. Choose one offering in your business that you can streamline. A repeatable kit, a best-selling pattern, or a go-to colorway. Have that be your anchor and go from there. Now, this next thing is very important, and it was a real foundational consideration when I first started Fiber for the People. I was a relatively new mom, I was staying at home, and I was otherwise unemployed, and we were living on a single salary, and my husband was a high school teacher at the time. Still currently is, but at the time he was as well. The purpose of turning a passion into a handmade business was providing a pretty good portion of our family's income. I knew that whatever I was going to do with this, my big goal was that I needed to make sure at some point the income I was bringing in was providing what we needed in our family income, whatever was missing from our family income. And that was all based on our own personal finances and our goals and things like that. And I am very thankful and fortunate that I have built what I have here to provide a good portion of our family's income. So it's really important when you go into a business like this to determine what it is that you plan on funding with the income stream. Is this going to be meant for paying for groceries? Are you paying for extracurriculars for your kids or sports? Are you doing this just to help bolster your stash, which is completely valid? Or like my situation, are you replacing an income? The income I was replacing was my teacher salary that I had earned and developed over the course of 8 years as a teacher. Don't scale your business without a purpose or a funding goal. Not every business needs to be the next Amazon. Maybe it just needs to pay your bills and buy some groceries or get your kids through Taekwondo class. You need to set that standard and set that bar, and that will help to drive how much growth you want to see in your business. And it's also going to help you find what I like to call growth stasis, which is kind of counterintuitive, and I'll explain that in just a minute. When you know what your business needs to do, you can stop chasing everything and stop chasing what might actually be meaningless growth. Pick one financial goal that would feel meaningful and manageable and build backwards from that. Now, if growth is your goal, it's really important to know that there is a hidden cost to growth, and I really want to unpack this one here. Now, it's really important to understand, like I said previously, what it is that is fueling your desire for growth. Don't let that thing that fuels your desire for growth be other people's growth. If you're looking at other businesses in a similar market as yours and you're noticing that there are certain creators that have grown their business to a point that exceeds where you currently are with your business, and you find that to be a challenge that you want to accept, perhaps you want to meet whatever their growth is, really pay attention to that voice, listen to it very carefully, and be very critical of that, because that person's growth and business model has nothing to do with your current life and your capacity. You may not have the personal capacity at that moment to grow to the extent of somebody else. And so it's really important to keep in touch with what your goals are, like I just said, and make sure that your desire for growth is not only hinging on somebody else's growth and feeling like you need to meet that particular expectation. That's a dangerous game to play, and you really don't want to put yourself under that kind of pressure. However, if growth is the goal, let's talk about some of the hidden costs that come with growth. Now, remember, scaling up means admin, space, bookkeeping. In the business world, they call this overhead, things that you have to pay for to keep your business running. The more you grow your business, the more help you're inevitably going to need. You can only spread yourself so thin before you crack. Employees, contractors, other fulfillment tools, these are all things that come into the picture the more you grow your business. That dream of freedom and flexibility and creativity can quietly become just another job job if you grow outside of your capacity. Now that you're the CEO of this business, you might find that you're also the janitor and the customer service representative. Growth done intentionally, and I might just add here, slowly, can absolutely build the life you want. Just don't always assume that more equals better. Build a what growth costs spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, you can have a section for time, money, space. And then ask yourself, do I want that? Or is there a simpler version to this that serves me and my family better? When I first got into doing this, I was under it wasn't an assumption. It was just kind of something you start to believe the more you see businesses on social media and living in, kind of like a very capitalistic centered society here, where you think if business is growing, grow your business. How's your business doing? Sales increasing year to year and all of this. And so you get into this mindset that when you start a business, you always have to be in this state of growing your business. And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to a handmade business or a business like a craft hobby being turned into something like a business, this is all absolutely a myth. And you really need to understand this very clearly right now at the onset. Constant growth isn't always the dream. It can absolutely burn you out. And in a lot of cases, if you don't grow with intention, it absolutely will burn you out. This is where I want to introduce you to something that I refer to as growth stasis. They are two terms that don't go together at all, right? Growth and stasis. They mean opposite things. But what it means to me is growing to a point where you can just stay. You don't have to grow any further beyond that. You don't want to shrink. You just want to stay status quo, because wherever that is in your business, it's funding everything that you need to maintain the lifestyle that you desire. It alleviates the pressure to constantly feel like you have to grow. I remember when we were purchasing a house, we had a lot of conversations with different, financial institutions or whatever you go through to buy a house, and questions when I have to explain that I'm a business owner, I own my own business, and that's how we fund. That's where our income comes from. They ask a lot of questions about growth over time. They want to know how your business is growing over time, because that really does determine whether they seem to think that your business is successful, is if you're showing year-to-year growth. Well, my business at that time was doing what I wanted it to do, and it was providing what we needed as a family in income. And I didn't want to grow the business anymore because I knew I didn't have, number one, the capacity, and I didn't want to acquire the capacity to grow my business further. I didn't want employees. I didn't want to move to a separate space. I wanted to work from home by myself with the resources that I have, because what my business was producing for us, financially speaking, was enough. Now, those things change over time and then you adjust. But it's really important to know that once you hit that stasis, that desire to grow your business really needs to take a back burner, and you need to allow yourself to roll with what you have. That things are going to fluctuate. The market's going to fluctuate. The economy is going to fluctuate. Your life situation will change. And that's when you can start changing what you need your business to do for you. That's where you make adjustments. But at some point, you might find that you can just stay. And that is a really important place to know, to know where that place is, right? On a roadmap of your business, to know where stasis will be. Stasis is sustainable, peaceful, and profitable. And when I say profitable, it's because you don't burn out. You can continue operating your business comfortably. And if you can continue operating it comfortably, you're going to be successful, and that will lead to a profitable business. Sometimes success looks a lot less like an empire and a lot more like a beautiful, steady cottage on a quiet hill. A steady, sustainable business is a success, not a compromise. Define your version of enough or stasis and use it to set your ceiling, not just your floor. While we're talking about growth, I want to talk about something that comes up a lot when it comes to a handmade business. And I've experienced a bit of this in my business as a yarn dyer as well. And that's what it means to sell to shops, do craft markets, or get involved in wholesaling. You can imagine this. You've just started a business. You've just launched your product out into the handmade world, into the craft community. And you get your first email from a shop or a market, and they're interested in selling your product in their shop. And they offer you a wholesale account with them. They want to buy a whole bunch of what it is that you create that they can sell in their shop. You, as a brand new business owner, sees this as an amazing and profitable, lucrative opportunity. And something else starts to tap on your shoulder, and it's called your ego. And it starts to make you think that this is the way to go. Somebody thinks that what you're offering is very special and very unique, and they want to offer it in their shop, and that you have been singled out by this person because what you're doing is fantastic. If you're a small handmade business owner or a handmade business owner of any size, you're probably very familiar with this feeling. I know that I am, and in the beginning I experienced these emails, and still to this day I receive emails like this. Tread cautiously into these relationships. Now, here's some facts. Wholesale sounds like a big win, but it often comes with margin cuts, sometimes in the line of 40% to 50%. There's inventory stress and relatively tight deadlines because you're dealing with somebody else's business and they need to be able to offer the product on a consistent schedule. You may have heard of trunk shows, and this is where a particular shop will feature your product in their shop for a particular period of time. Sometimes it could be a week, a couple of weeks, up to a month. They sell the product at market price, and then they give you a percentage of those takings, or they keep a small commission for themselves. These can be done in a lot of different ways. It really just depends on the relationship between the creator and the shop. This can be a great alternative to wholesale. You have a limited time sales and contracts. You have one-to-one customer interaction if you are present at your trunk show, which is great for your exposure. And there are far fewer logistics with this than there are with an entire wholesale account and relationship. Craft markets and in-person selling are amazing for customer connection, but also exhausting with a lot of upfront costs and no guaranteed sales. Now, keep this in mind. Local shops are not the enemy. Many of these places are the heart of the community, but not every offer or relationship will be healthy for you. The right partnership with a yarn shop or a boutique can be a beautiful thing, built on mutual respect, creative autonomy, and clear terms. Always ask yourself, will this relationship or partnership require more from me than I have the capacity to give? Then communicate clearly. Have a wholesale or trunk show document outlining your plans and expectations ready. And when I say communicate clearly, this is absolutely critical. Communicate your terms clearly, directly, and early. Spell out what you offer, what you don't, and the timelines that you can commit to. Be specific. I can provide 30 skeins for a trunk show that runs for 3 weeks, with invoicing after sales close. Unsold skeins are returned to me. Avoid soft or vague language like maybe or hopefully. A confident, that is what works for me, keeps relationships professional, respectful, and all on the same page. Good shops and craft event organizers want that clarity because it protects them too. Clear communication is not aggressive, it's responsible. Now, when it comes to starting or operating a handmade hobby craft business, these days, there's one elephant in the room that you absolutely need to address and figure out where it fits in your business model. And that is social media. Use it, but don't lose yourself in it. Social media is a beautiful tool, but it's not the business. It's powerful for visibility, communication, and connection, but it can also skew your expectations, trigger imposter syndrome, and waste so much time on content that doesn't convert to business in the end. You don't need to go viral to build a thriving and respected handmade business. In fact, depending on your capacity and your financial goals for your business, that stasis that we talked about earlier, you probably don't want to go viral. What matters is consistency and clarity and staying true to your business goals and your business model. And using social media for those things that I mentioned before: communication, visibility, and connection. Not comparison, because I think it's said someplace too that comparison is the killer of creativity. Always keep that in mind. Set social media boundaries. Use a scheduler. There's lots of them out there that will help you schedule posts. You can even use things like ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you do that as well if you're into that kind of thing. Block 1 to 2 days a week to engage and then walk away. And don't listen to the people who tell you that you have to post every day to really make any kind of waves in the algorithm. It's absolutely not true. If your posts are of a high quality and engaging, then you're going to get traction. But remember, your goal is not to go viral. It's just to help build your business where you need it to be. Remind yourself that the best work isn't always the loudest. it's the most sustainable. With all of these things that we've talked about that go into creating a handmade business, there's one major risk that you always need to keep in mind, and that is the risk to your joy. Don't ever forget the reason you do the thing in the first place. And if it's something like knitting or art or any kind of creative thing that started as your hobby, you really want to stay in tune with what it was that made that hobby joyful to you. Because I'm here to tell you, monetizing your hobby can absolutely kill the joy that you get out of it. Here are some strategies that you can use. Keep a personal project always. Something that you're doing within that hobby that is just yours. Perhaps you don't share it at all with anybody, or if you do share it, make sure that it is not tied in any way to building your business. Set boundaries. How much of that particular craft is going to be what you monetize, and how much are you going to allow to be there for just freedom and creativity? And then reassess these things regularly. You don't have to monetize everything. Protecting part of your craft for yourself is really one of the most radical business strategies you can take, and it has a huge payoff. Block out 1 day a week or even an hour for a project just for you. Not for the shop, not for the content, just for joy. So at the end of all of that, here's the hard truth. You absolutely can build your dream, but it's not effortless or fantasy every day. The struggle is real, the stress is there, the pressure is there, and you're constantly going through all kinds of indecision and insecurities about whether you're doing enough or whether you're doing too much. And if you have a family that you're providing for, all of that plays into it as well. And it just bears a weight that you need to be aware of before you dive into this, so that you can best lay out your roadmap of how you're going to tackle all of this with all of those things considered. Listen to other small business owners when they share stories with you or struggles that they have or pressure that they feel. Work backwards from those things. If you have an idea of what sorts of things may lie ahead, you can better prepare for them now. Build your business intentionally around your craft. Review your goals monthly. Is your business still serving your life, or have you started making sacrifices in your life to serve your business? And if so, are you comfortable with those? You are capable, and that's not because it's easy, but because you're willing to be intentional, gritty, and smart. There is a lot to unpack here, and I'm so happy that you stayed till the end. And I want to invite you to head over to Patreon and check it out over there. Not only do I provide a lot of additional content, I'm going to be providing you with a great PDF that is a checklist of everything that I shared with you here, that if you are planning on starting your own handmade business or are curious about maybe entertaining that idea in the future, will keep you focused on what's really important so you can keep your business sustainable and working for you. This PDF toolkit will be available over there for Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. If it is something for you, definitely consider joining. There's a lot going on over there. In the meantime, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you guys very soon for the next video. Otherwise, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.